This is John Kohler with OKRod.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and as you can see, actually probably just about a week ago, got back from shopping the LA, Los Angeles Wholesale Produce Terminal, and as you can see, I got lots of produce again. So I always make a video like this, going over what I bought, but this time I'm going to do it with a twist. So the title of this video is called Produce Management 101. So this is whether you're maybe working in the produce industry or whether you're just a guy that eats a lot of fresh produce like me. I'm going to share with you guys my tips on, how to manage your produce once you buy it. I mean, we bought over 20 cases of food, of produce here, and it all has to last. And I get some of this stuff to last about a month using the special practices and techniques that I'm going to share with you in this video. So for all you guys that are curious, yes, all this stuff costs around $400. And it feeds two people, myself and my friend who also is into raw foods, for a whole month. And and there's some techniques and tips to do it to make sure it lasts and to have a wide variety of things. And these are mostly what I bought. There's a few things also in the fridge that I'll show you guys also. But in any case, let's get into this video and share with you guys the first category of foods that we bought and how they're used and how you manage them the best. The first category of fruits we got, since we are technically coming out of the winter, we got the citrus fruits. So the citrus fruits, one of the things I often encourage you guys to do is eat a variety. Don't just eat navel oranges, all winter long. Get as many varieties as you can in different kinds of citrus fruits. So here we got some really delicious tangerines. Here we got some navel oranges. Over here we got my favorite, the cocktail grapefruits. Here we got some red grapefruits. Here we got some Cara oranges. Here we got some blood oranges. Here we got some Meyer lemons, and I think we even got a standard lemon left here. Oh, and a Mignolo Tangelo. In addition, we got some Oro Blancos a little bit over there. But the main thing you want to remember when buying foods in volume, like by the case or buying a whole bunch, is number one, you want to lay them out. So as you can see, I laid them out, and it's best to do them in single file, which means one layer. Don't pile them up on top of each other, because the problem is if you pile these guys up all on top of each other, you won't be able to see the ones in the bottom. If the ones that are in the bottom are rotting, then rot begots rot. So you want them single file. And every day what I like to do is I like to paw through my produce or fondle my produce. I like fondling my produce. But it's very important to fondle your produce and check your produce every day. So I'll come out and maybe squeeze some of the, don't squeeze the Chardonnay, but you could squeeze my citrus fruit. You could actually come out and squeeze the citrus fruits, and you can see some of the ones that are softer, they need to get used quicker than some of the ones that are more firm and hard. Another thing you want to look for is any kind of rot or molding. We get this white kind of fuzzy mold stuff on these guys, and how it starts is it starts in a little area, and then it spreads and gets the whole thing. So if there's just a little bit of rot, we'll just take the fruit, and that's something that, if you see rot, then that's guess what your meal is today? The stuff that you need to use today, or else you're going to lose it. So we'll take the citrus and cut off, the section that's bad and leave the good half, and we'll go ahead and juice that or eat the citrus or whatever other food we have. Another thing you want to do to ensure your long-term success with proper produce management and storage is when you're buying the produce, this is very important, if you can hand select it, hand select out the case, that looks the freshest. Many times produce, depending on where you buy it, may be older, and that's why it might be the good deal, and we got some amazing deals, which I might share with you in a little bit. But that's because it's older and it's going out or going to be going bad really soon. So if you could open the box top and make sure there's no rotten ones in there, because once again, rot begots rot. If one or two are rotting, that means the rest are soon to follow. So pick out the box that has the least amount of rot, that has the most firmest fruits that's going to save. So in general, the citrus fruits, they're pretty good savers. As you can see, everything's just at room temperature here. I don't like to store things in the fridge unless absolutely necessary. Although that being said, if you do store these in the fridge, they'll absolutely last longer. But number one, the fridge is too small to store all this stuff. Number two, frankly, I like to eat my foods at room temperature, because when you're taking something cold out of the fridge and eating it, it shocks your system, takes more energy for your system to basically regulate that temperature warmer so that you can digest it. Same thing with excessively hot foods. You need to regulate that temperature, cool it down so that your body can, absorb the nutrition out of it. So I like all my foods at room temperature. So yeah, the main thing is come out, check each fruit, check each box. I mean, it goes really fast. And it's really nice when I wake up in the morning, come out here and look at the bountifulness of all this and then figure out, well, what do I got to eat today? Well, let's see what I need to eat today before it goes bad. Next, we're going to talk about the apples. So the apples are yet another good storage fruit. Now, at least the oranges are picked fairly fresh and then, they got to be eaten. But on the apples, it's highly unfortunate that many apples, especially if you're buying them out of season, have actually been picked, put into cold storage, and many of which may be stored in oxygen-deprived environments. Now think about it, how long could you survive in an oxygen-deprived environment? Not long. But these guys are actually stored in nitrogen-rich environments so that they stay fresher longer, because guess what? For the commercial agriculture industry, including organic agriculture industry, it's all about not having the merchandise or the stock go bad. So that's why they use some techniques to preserve the food longer than it normally would. And are these techniques good or bad? Well, I'll leave that to you to decide. I always encourage you guys to do the best you can. Another thing I want to talk about real quick is organics versus conventional foods. So the majority of what I bought, actually everything that I'm looking at except like one thing that I'll talk about in a minute, is organic. And I always encourage you guys to buy organic, because not only are you going to not be consuming pesticides and other chemical toxins, you're also going to be not supporting, the oil industry, because most of the pesticides and fertilizers that are used on conventionally grown produce are derived from oil. So, I'm not in a big favor of that whole industry. So yeah, buy organic whenever possible. Shop your local farmers markets as well. So on these apples here, now this case, we got a case of the Red Delicious apples, $10. Yes, that was 35 pounds of Red Delicious apples for $10. And yeah, we had to pick through, and when we got the cases in, we'd actually pick through each case, and if there's any bad, rotten ones that are nasty, then those immediately go out to get composted in the yard. Some of the other ones that have bad spots and are soft already go into the fridge so that we can use them sooner rather than later, and then the ones that look halfway decent come out here. And once again, if we come out and this has a little bad spot on it, right? You could immediately pick this up and eat it, or at least minimally, I like to put it in the fridge. That, the majority of my fruits are not in the fridge, but in some cases to preserve it, to keep it fresher so it doesn't expire, I do and will refrigerate before we get to juice it. A lot of cases, the bad fruits that aren't super good, like going bad, I'll oftentimes either juice it or blend them up into smoothies. In addition, we got some Fuji apples. So these were in a little bit better shape. This is a box of, I think, around 35 pounds for $20. So I bought one box that was maybe not in good shape, a little bit more ripe or on its way out to use quicker, and then the Fujis that would store later to use later. So, easily I've saved apples for 1 month without any problem, without any refrigeration. And, just basically keep them dry and not moist. That's another thing I want to talk about, the moisture level. If you have a very humid environment and things are more moist, then mold and stuff grows faster. So this is a very dry climate. So we're able to store things, and have things last longer. Definitely important. Next, let's move into my favorite category of fruits, the tropical fruits. Now we're going to talk about the tropical fruits, storage, how to use them, and all this kind of stuff. So as you can see, the tropical fruits I got the standard bananas. Now I didn't actually purchase the bananas at the wholesale produce terminal because I didn't find any good deals on them. Actually, I found that they're actually cheapest to purchase at the local Trader Joe's, and I get organic bananas, and Trader Joe's sells the bananas by the each. And by the each, it's always best to pick the largest bananas as you can. I mean, I know many women like large bananas, and as a guy, if I'm shopping at Trader Joe's, I like large bananas too. So, because that way you'll get a much better deal. So if you pick out all the small bananas and buy the each, I mean, your price could be maybe $1 a pound, but if you're buying the large bananas like I did, and I figured this out, my cost per pound was 72 cents, which is amazing. I mean, even at the produce terminal, it may be just below that, but then you got 40 pounds of bananas. Now, while I like bananas and they're great to eat in the winter and a good source of calories, I don't particularly like the taste, and there's a lot of other fruits I like to eat, but yet I like to add bananas to my smoothies as a nice filler and makes a nice consistency too. So on the bananas, they store actually relatively well, and the problem I have is actually ripening them up faster. So what I'll do is I'll take the bananas, put them in a paper bag with a couple apples, seal up the paper bag, not a plastic bag, paper bag, so it can breathe, and they'll ripen up faster. So I like having them in all different stages of ripeness because I don't want them all ripening at the same time and then have to make a couple meals out of bananas. It's not fun, although I know many of you guys may do that. Next, what I do like to make meals out of are these guys right here. These are the Adolfo mangoes, also called champagne mangoes. And yes, these are organic. We bought 5 cases of these mangoes, and this was about a week ago. And we piled through about half that amount, so we have some left here. And as you can see, some of these guys, the skins are kind of getting wrinkled on that. When the skins are getting wrinkled, that means it's time to use them. So if you don't eat them fast, then there's other techniques I use to preserve them. One of the things I do is I'll have a demo, and I did a demo with making a coconut mango pie, and that used a whole bunch of mangoes. So another thing I'll do is we could cut these off and then freeze it, so we'll have organic frozen mango that we did ourselves, and they're the bomb because they're truly ripe when we're freezing it. A lot of frozen mangoes you may buy in the store are not at their peak of ripeness, so that's a really good way to preserve them. Another way to use them is if I just make a smoothie. I mean, I could throw like 5, 6, 7 mangoes in a smoothie and drink it down real easy, but I'd rather actually just take these and eat them one at a time, and I'll eat the 6 or 7 at one time, one sitting. Another thing you can do is make your own dehydrated dried mango in your dehydrator. So if you ever go to buy dried mango at the store, it's like organic, $10 a pound. But man, when you're getting these mangoes, and these mangoes were $7 a case for, I think it was about like 14 pieces, man, that's super cheap, super delicious, and super good. So yeah. And yeah, of course, when we buy these, another thing I did was I bought them at different stages of ripeness. So a lot of them, at least half of them I bought when they're like ripe and ready to eat now, because I don't want to wait for my fruits to ripen. Plus, if you buy them ripe, they're going to taste better, because sometimes if you don't buy them when they're at their peak ripeness, they won't ripen up properly. So I got a couple cases that were a little bit more firm and hard and not quite a nice bright vivid color. They've all since turned a bright vivid color, and they're all ready to go right now. And that's another way I stage my fruit. So if you're buying in large quantity, get some that are ripe ready to eat now, and get some that are not quite ready. So that's the bananas, the mangoes, and next we got one of my favorite fruits, the papaya. Also called pawpaw down under. But in the US, pawpaw is actually a different fruit related to the mango. But in any case, the papayas are probably one of the only things I bought that was actually non-organic. And as you can see, there's only 2 left. And we did buy a case. The case was, I think, like 40 pounds for 15 bucks, non-organic. So yes, I did buy these non-organic because they're significantly more expensive if they're organic. I think, organic ones would have costed 10 pounds for like 40 bucks. So these guys are the Mardol variety papayas, and when I bought these, I always get these guys ripe. If I didn't see any ripe at the produce terminal, I wouldn't have bought these, because in general, I find that if you buy these when they're not ripe, they don't really ripen up properly. So we bought these ripe, and because they're ripe, we've had to actually blow through them really fast. So actually for breakfast, I ate one papaya today, and we need to do something with the rest of these, whether we're gonna freeze it or make smoothies out of it. They need to get used ASAP. So that's the other thing you want to remember. Whatever you buy that's the ripest, you got to use it the soonest. Or actually at least put it in the fridge so it could save till later. Actually, these we might just put in the fridge to help extend their life. The next produce we'll be talking about are number 1, onions. John, I thought you don't eat onions, man. You're on an 80-10-10 diet. Well, I do eat the majority of my diet 80-10-10 and eat, between 10% and 25% max fat. Normally on average I eat between 15 and 20% fat. Onions are an irritant, man. You're irritating yourself. But yeah, besides being an irritant, they're also, cancer fighting and very nutritious. Not that I say that I eat onions out of hand every day, but I like to include them in my diet. Once again, I want to include things in my diet and not like throw the baby out with the bathwater every single time on every single thing, right? Because there's benefits to every different kind of food, and I'm not saying eat them in large quantities. And as you can see, we have like, maybe a half dozen onions compared to cases and cases and cases of fresh fruits. And once again, that is the majority of my calories. So yes, onions store very well. They'll be here a while, and this is how bad we don't even eat onions. Actually, they'll sit here so long that they'll actually start to sprout on us, and then you could actually plant them and grow them outside. So that's kind of cool. Besides the onions, one of the favorite things I like to eat are avocados. So we have 2 kinds of avocados here today. And I'm not a big fan of the Hass avocado, especially when they're being imported. This time of year, predominantly, you guys are finding Hass avocados either from probably Mexico right now, or potentially Chile. Hass avocados in California, from California, not in any wide distribution. So what we got are, once again, about a dozen avocados. And so right here we got the Pinkerton avocado, has a nice long skinny neck, and this is a pretty good higher fat content than these guys. These are the bacon avocados that have a much lower fat content. So I mean, eating this is like almost like eating water. There's not a good flavor on it in my opinion, but they're low in fat, so if that's your goal. But I like to eat any avocado as long as they're ripe avocados. One of the things I've noticed about the Pinkertons is that you do need to be careful. Sometimes they don't ripen up optimally, and sometimes the neck here will still be hard when the rest of the avocado is totally mushy soft. But nonetheless, I want to encourage you guys to eat some variety in your life. The other thing with the avocados is we'll come out here and gently press the avocados. You can't squeeze them too hard, you'll bruise them. And if they're getting ripe, then it's time to put them in the fridge and then like use them that night for dinner. We don't just like let them sit here and rot out, and you need to check these guys every day because once they start going ripe, then they could go downhill really fast. Next thing we got in the back here are the sweet potatoes. And now these sweet potatoes, for those of you guys that watched my video, I don't know, about a month ago or so now, these guys have lasted since my last trip to the wholesale produce terminal. So these guys are 45 days old, you know, at least, and they're still fresh. I mean, obviously we've been using them at that time, and, you know, once again, I don't make my diet out of sweet potatoes, but I think they're an amazing food to add due to the carotenoids in there. So I'll juice them up. We've been making some sweet potato chips out of them, which are quite delicious, and, you know, like to include foods instead of exclude foods in my diet whenever possible. Next foods in the back I've had for a while. This is actually a pumpkin I grew in my garden here. We're gonna juice that up one of these days. Also, man, this stuff, these guys must be at least 2 months old minimum. These are some organic butternut squash, nice and hard, still preserved. So these are great storage vessels of carotenoids and vitamins and minerals in there. Generally, I like to juice these guys up, or I might spiralize them into some noodles. In addition, got some squashes from my good friends Dr. Rick and Karen Dina that they grew. That was oversized, and they're also still lasting as well. The next two things I'll be talking about are number one, tomatoes. So, you know, I don't buy organic tomatoes because number one, they cost more money. Number two, they're imported from Mexico, and the tomatoes grown in a field from Mexico don't taste that good. So what I prefer to get instead are these guys right here. These are actually grown in the USA in hot houses in Arizona. So we got the, as it says, Arizona grown. So that's just one state away from here. We got the Roma plums, which are nice Roma plum tomatoes. And as you can see, they're the hot house grown tomatoes, and they're still on the vine. So in general, tomatoes still on the vine are a lot fresher, a lot riper, and usually taste significantly better than the ones off the vine. And these guys are grown in a greenhouse, and they're Eurofresh farms, and these guys are certified pesticide residue free. So I feel comfortable eating those guys. In addition, besides just the Romas, and we got one whole case of Romas we've actually blown through, you know, actually probably one whole case of tomatoes now. We also got the super cherries. The super cherries, once again, are also grown in the hot house, greenhouse, and from the Eurofresh Farms brand. And, you know, these guys are actually quite sweet and delicious. Overall, between the super cherries and the aromas, I prefer the super cherries. Now, it's very important not to fridge your tomatoes. I know you guys want them to last longer, but if you fridge your tomatoes, the flavor goes down dramatically and just they taste like crap, and just you should not even buy them at that point, in my opinion. That being said, I like to keep them out, but also, once again, you need to come out every day and check your tomatoes. In general, in a arid or dry climate like this, the tomatoes I've had last no problem as long as you get them when they're fairly fresh, you know, up to like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, these guys look like the day I bought them, which was a week ago. No big deal. Of course, you always need to go through and pick out ones that are rotten or are bad or whatnot, because once one starts rotten, then they all start rotten that much quicker. Aside from the tomatoes, another thing we got here was the watermelon. So you can see I got a whole bunch of watermelon. Now, John, why'd you get watermelon, man? Well, number one, this is organic watermelon grown in Mexico. These are actually nice and large size, and I don't know if you guys price organic watermelon lately, but they can be quite expensive. We got these by the case. Each case was $17, and that means each watermelon cost us $2.83. So just the other day we juiced the watermelons. We made like, I think, almost over 2 liters of juice, and that was good for one meal. So each meal basically cost us approximately $2.83 for some delicious watermelon juice. And the watermelons are one thing over probably everything else here that will save the longest, as long as they're in good shape when you buy them. So the way I check the watermelons, you just want to come to the watermelons, you want to just check the stem in, make sure there's no rot. The other thing you want to do is you want to just press on the watermelon. And this goes for when you're picking them out at the store too. You want to press on it because it could be bad or old at the store when you buy it, and then it's not going to save as long. These guys are nice and firm. If you press on it, your thumb cannot press into the fruit there, and also you want to tap it. Should have a thump like that. If it sounds more hollow, more soft, then it's not going to store as long. So I've stored these easily for a month. But that being said, you want to use it before you lose it. And as I said, we like to just juice these, blend these up, or just eat them. And they're nice and red on the inside. So yeah, got lots of watermelons. So we'll be eating those at least in a month. Next, I'm going to talk about my staple food. And no, my staple food is not bananas. Thank you very much. My staple food is the coconuts. Now, I mostly drink the coconut water, rarely eat the coconut meat, unless I get these guys right here. These guys are the young coconuts off the tree. These are from Mexico, not treated because they're still in the husk, so they're protected by nature, not like the Thai coconuts that we'll talk about in a little bit. And so I was really happy to find these at the LA Wholesale Produce Terminal. They're by the bag. I think it was like 15 pieces in a bag, and a bag was like 18 bucks or something like that. I don't know, somewhere around there. So they're around $1 each, so I was really happy I was able to find these, because otherwise you can only find these guys in like Hawaii or Florida or whatnot. So these guys are going to store very well. I have stored these for up to a month before, and they should store at least that long here. But you got to, once again, pay attention. Use the ones that are the ripest. You want to check for leakers when taking them out of the box to, put up on display. And as you can see, once again, I have them all single level. And, I can kind of take a look and glance really quickly to see what kind of condition they're in. Now, in addition, besides these coconuts, which are my favorite coconut, and I got like 4 of those bags or 4 cases of those, I got 1 case of these white ones. So these white coconuts are my second favorite coconut. These white ones are also from Mexico, so much less shipping is involved or transportation. And these guys are a little bit more mature than these guys back here. And they have a good, delicious water, but also the meat's thicker. So we have been actually dehydrating the meat to make pie crusts, and actually one of the favorite things now is to make the coconut milk and use it in the ice cream maker to make some kick-ass raw coconut-based ice creams using fresh fruit as well. So yeah, so I like these. And I just have a first sample because I did a coconut talk last night. I also have the standard brown coconut, so I don't really recommend you guys drink the water. And the brown coconuts, oftentimes they don't taste so good, but I will in a pinch. And also the meat's significantly higher in fat content, so that actually makes it better coconut milk and ice cream. But I don't eat the coconut meat for the most part in large quantities. Last but not least, as you saw in the video before when I did my Fruit Palace tour like I'm doing today, I got a lot of nuts. And besides the nuts I have, I got a lot of nuts here. And we got things like the filberts, or the hazelnuts, also the almonds. Also, I got the coquito nuts, which I do have a good video on. These are basically baby coconuts. There's no water inside, but there's some delicious coconut-like meat in there. In addition, I got the red walnuts. These are actually walnuts. If you crack them, the walnuts are actually red instead of the brown color. Got the standard brown walnuts that I harvested myself from California. In addition, we got some locally grown Nevada pine nuts here. Definitely, these are kick-ass. Don't get the stuff from China in the bulk bins. Once again, I always encourage you guys to purchase your foods as fresh as possible. I mean, I purchased these from the person that picked them off the trees. And then finally, we saved some apricot pits here for the apricot kernels. They are high in B17 or laetrile. They are quite bitter, but I like to include these, a little bit in my diet. So as you can see, the purpose of this is to show you guys that, on the nuts, the best way to purchase your nuts are in the shell, because they're going to last the longest and they're the freshest, and they'll be more minimally processed than the ones out of the shell, because the ones out of the shell, they may have been heated too hot and then may not be able to be considered raw, but in the shell, they're going to store longer because they're not going to go rancid as bad. I mean, literally, they're in nature's packaging. So I tend not to eat a whole lot of nuts. My goal every day is to eat a handful, and I'm lenient, so I give myself 2 handfuls max of nuts a day. And once again, another thing, a benefit of buying the nuts in the shell is that, let me tell you, you're only going to crack as many nuts as you want to eat. You're not just going to sit there and crack them forever to eat a lot. So you're going to actually eat less because it's more challenging to get into. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go inside the fridge, because the fridge is also where I have some produce stored that I bought at the terminal, because some things are just so fragile that you do need to fridge them. So in general, if I buy something and it's under refrigeration at the store, then I will also refrigerate it. Obviously, the produce that I just showed you guys, in my opinion, you don't need to refrigerate it depending on the stage of ripeness. That being said, there were some things that I needed the fridge, so let's go ahead and open this guy up here. And inside the fridge here, one of the main things we got were these peppers. So these are actually mini sweet organic peppers. So these guys were like $7 a case of like, I don't know, I think there are 12 little packages. So we got these all like lined up here. And some of these guys we got to probably start using pretty fast. They're on their way out, and that's why I got a good deal on them. But they're organic peppers, and I always encourage you guys to get the smaller peppers whenever possible. They're much tastier, especially when they're so cheap. In addition, you can see here what we got is some of the grapefruits that have had some rot on the top. But you know, while there's rot on the top, we could literally slice this in half. We'll throw off the rotten half and then juice the other half. So we put these in here to save, and we got to use these here relatively soon. In addition, found a ripe avocado today, so we put the ripe avocado in the fridge. And now when putting ripe fruits in the fridge, I always encourage you guys to like put it right at eye level in the front so that you can't see it, because if you hide it in the back, guess what? It's going to go rotten on you because you're not going to know it's there. So maybe tonight for dinner, I'll make a grapefruit avocado dressing. Maybe. Probably will not, but you never know. In addition, we got some of these apples here that are kind of going soft, that we also ready to juice. And in addition, we got these guys in here. So these guys are from Pepe's Organics. And what we have in here we had a whole case of 22 pounds for $18 of the Persian cukes. So the Persian cukes are like pretty much like baby English cucumbers, are much smaller. They're seedless, and they have actually the skin's not bitter. So like these a lot, or they want to cut them up in salads, or actually juice these with some apples, with some greens. Definitely a good thing. Over on this side, some of the things we also got were, we got 3 cases of strawberries. So they were going ripe, so we did freeze some, and we have actually 4 pounds left. And this was for a case, it was like $13. So that was definitely a good deal for some organic strawberries. And we'll have to polish these off soon. As you can see, the display until date is March 15th, but even though it's displayed until March 15th, it's still definitely good for a couple days after. But these got to get used pretty soon. In addition, because I did a coconut talk, I got a case of the young Thai coconuts for use in the talk. And once again, I do want to say that these have been dipped in fungicides and sulfites. Thymobenzol is a fungicide, and if you're eating conventional bananas, that's what they're spraying on here. And I'd rather get my thymobenzol, which is basically a fungicide. Also, they use it for deworming as actually a drug for people. I'd rather get it from my coconuts. That being said, I do not believe that a significant portion, if any, get in through the husk, through the hard shell, and then into the meat and the water. Another thing I want to mention is that if you do get a coconut, like a Thai coconut like this, and it is pink or purple inside, that means it's bad. It doesn't mean it's ripe. It means it's going bad, and I encourage you guys to throw it out. So that's the Thai coconuts. Over on, let's see, this side we got some of the apples. So these apples are actually from last month's trip to the wholesale produce terminal. We had still apples left because they're Granny Smith. Nobody likes to eat Granny Smiths around here, but they're good for juicing because they have a good texture for the juicer. So they were, still out when we left, and then I'm like, okay, put them in the fridge, and they're still lasting. So yes, you could even store these for over a month as long as you get them when they're pretty fresh and ready. Also got some carrots. The carrots, actually organic carrots, Bunny Love carrots, are actually from Costco instead of the produce terminal because they're actually cheaper at Costco. Finally, what we're going to talk about are down here. One of the things actually we don't have any more of are the blueberries. I got a case of what they call seconds blueberries. There's a case of organic 12 small 4-ounce containers for $5. So that was basically, we split that 6 4-ounce containers for breakfast one morning, actually the morning of the terminal, because they're that bad. We had to just wash them, sort through, chuck about, only 5% of them, and we had some delicious blueberries for breakfast for only $2.50. So that's great. Another really good deal that we had to use quickly are these guys here, and we only have 3 bags left here. These are organic grapes. So organic grapes can be exceedingly hard to find, especially this time of year. There's conventional grapes, but these are organic, and these are hard to find. These are globe grapes, red globe grapes with the seeds. Hey people, if you guys are eating fruits, I always encourage you guys to eat this fruits with the seeds whenever possible because there are nutrients in the seeds, like the pycnogenol in the seeds of the grapes. I mean, you could buy grape seed extract at your health food store, but why buy the supplement when you could eat the grape seeds and chew them really well? Or you could blend them really well. Or actually what I'm going to do with these guys are actually juice them. While these are organic, they, in my opinion, don't taste as good as grapes fresh in California at the end of the season when they're ripe. So, in that case, a lot of the foods, especially if you have a large quantity that you need to use relatively quickly, I like to blend it up, drink the juice, get the most nutrition out of it, and then I go ahead and compost the peels. So actually that's what I'm going to be doing next here today is actually I'm going to make a juice off video juicing grapes in the Omega Vert and the Omega 8006 Nutrition Center. So check my other YouTube channel, Raw Foods, for that video if you're interested, coming up real soon. So I know you might be thinking, John, you're like a fruitarian, right? Well, actually it's called fruitarian, not a fruitarian. And because I didn't see, you really don't have any vegetables, man, maybe some carrots or something, but everything else was a fruit. Yes, tomatoes and peppers are a fruit, and yeah, I had a couple sweet potatoes. But like, where's the greens, man? Do you not eat greens? I mean, I know some fruitarians just eat fruit and no greens. Well, absolutely not. Greens are a very essential and important part of my diet. And I don't just get my greens anywhere. I don't buy them at the wholesale produce terminal, although I might be able to get them for cheap. They've been cut, shipped, picked, and guess what? Greens are one of the worst things to buy in case lot quantities because they don't store long. They can go bad very quickly. So I get my greens from an even better place than the wholesale produce market. So let me show you guys where that is. So I get my vegetables from my garden. As you can see, I'm sitting on a patio here, and on the patio I just have these $10 Grow'ems boxes that I picked up at Lowe's on clearance sale that I'm able to grow a lot of vegetables in. I mean, this one has lettuce, this one behind me has lettuce, this has some Asian greens, I have radishes over there, I got some garlic growing for later on, I got some sugar snap peas and snow peas. I mean, here's some little snow peas, man, and I mean, this is how I get my vegetables. Vegetables are really easy to grow. You can do it in a small amount of space. I mean, not even have a yard, you could grow these on your patio, even if it's just a little bit. Growing in one container can offset the amount of greens you need to purchase. Nice and crunchy, man. And you guys can't get the same quality, the same taste, the same nutrition in the foods you buy, even at the wholesale produce terminal, than that you can grow yourself. In addition, I mean, just a little small package of 5 ounces of organic baby greens from Whole Foods, for example, $3.49. Once you eat those 5 ounces, they're gone, poof, and there's your $3.49 down in your stomach. But check it out. In this Grow'ems container, which cost me $10, I grow a whole bunch of lettuce. I could easily harvest 5 ounces of greens off this today, and then maybe let it like rest a day and grow some more, and then the next day have another 5 ounces. And then, in a week, I'll easily save $10. And then through the life of the plants, I mean, you continue to eat and eat, it continues to grow and grow. It's the never-ending food forest. So, I have a whole bunch of different greens, including the bok choy and the kales and the collard greens here. But what I want to show you next, besides just my Grow'ems containers, is that I also have a full-on raised bed garden where I'm even growing more greens and more vegetables that I can eat. The best thing about growing your own food when storing it is that you don't have to worry about it, right? Because you're not gonna pick your food until you're ready to eat it. I might come out here for dinner and come into my beautiful red Russian kale plants and pick some leaves for dinner. In the meantime, it continues to grow, it continues to produce more food for me, and I get very little, if any, food spoilage because, foods only spoil once they've been picked. And if you're not picking it till you're eating it, it's not going to spoil. So you could literally have food forever. And that's why I think growing your own food on a raw plant-based diet is super critical. So you can have fresher food, higher quality food than you could buy. Plus, you're going to minimize the food spoilage and minimize money going into your compost pile because that's where I want you guys to throw your rotten foods, fruits and vegetables, to turn into soil to grow more foods into. Now we're sitting in front of my lettuce bed and I must have at least like 20 plants in here. I don't know about you, but if you go to the local Whole Foods, or whatever, buy organic lettuce, depending on where you live, it could cost $2 to $4, man, for one head. But check it out. I mean, 20 times $4. What's that, like $80? This is $80 worth of lettuce, minimally. But check it out. I mean, I don't come out here and chop the whole head down. I'll just come out here and, pick a couple leaves off each plant. and let the plant continue to grow. So I mean, this lettuce, as long as it continues to grow, will continue to feed me. And man, this is some of the best lettuce I've ever tasted. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode, taking a tour around some of the fruit I bought, but also, just a little bit of my vegetable garden. If you're interested in learning how to grow your own food at home, you want to visit my other YouTube channel called Growing Your Greens, or growingyourgreens.com. You get hooked in and learn from me how to grow your own food like I'm doing it here. The final thing I want to say is, if you do have food waste, bad food, things that's going bad, you got to cut off the bad half and then chuck it. I don't recommend you guys just throw it into the garbage and then it goes into the landfill. That's an incredibly waste of resources. What I do instead is I take any rotten food or, clippings and peels and whatnot, and they go into my compost bin. So I got what's called a Juraform compost bin here. And if you're a raw foodist, wow, man, that's quite warm. You definitely have to own a compost bin to make your own compost. Now, while some cities around the country may have programs that they take your waste, many do not, and I think it's far more valuable to compost your own waste. And this sits up off the ground. It's made of metal. It's going to last you a lifetime. It's insulated, so you could even compost when it's snowing outside. You can make your own compost to feed, your house plants, or better yet, feed your garden plants. Grow them in rich compost made from the organic produce scraps you're throwing away normally. So yeah, like this composter a lot. I do have a really excellent video on showing how to use this specifically, how to compost your food scraps by adding your food scraps with some standard pine pellets to create some amazing compost like I'm doing here. Just opening this up and feeling it. This is at 130 degrees. I mean, literally my compost is cooking, and in just probably less than a month now, I'm gonna have some good garden soil to add into my vegetable garden to grow even better crops than I have before. So in any case, I surely hope you guys enjoy this video, learn more about how to save your produce. Once again, buy it as fresh as possible. Don't buy it if it's going bad, because then it's going to last longer. Stage your produce. Get some that's in its ripe state to eat now. Get some that's not as ripe to eat for later. Number 3, if it is going bad, eat it that day as soon as possible. At least minimally put it in the fridge to save it, which will slow down the process in which it's rotting or going bad. Next, be sure to juice or blend the produce if you have it in abundance to get rid of it faster, because that's a way you could really concentrate the amount you're eating and eat maybe even a little bit more. Like I couldn't sit and eat 10 apples, but I could juice 10 apples and drink the juice, no problem. Next, you want to then think about dehydrating the food or freezing the food so you can use it later, so it kind of locks in where it's at and then it won't spoil on you. And then, also grow a garden. If you grow a garden, you'll never have any food waste or very little food waste, because you're only going to pick it as you need it, and meanwhile it looks beautiful, and plus you're going to grow the highest nutrient dense foods on the earth. And finally, you want to remember to compost. Compost all your food scraps to turn your food scraps into organic fertilizer for your garden. So hopefully after these tips you'll be able to better manage your produce you buy as a raw foodist, and hopefully even start growing your own. Once again, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're the best.